I truly, truly get Pearl. In many ways, she and I are alike. We grew up on a ranch far out from society, we spent crucial developmental years during a pandemic, trapped within forced isolation as the world was fearful of the dangers we could bring into our home, and we both dreamed for a life far bigger than what we already had. It's fair to say that I understand Pearl. She's a weird, off-putting little lady living a life she so badly wants to escape. Pearl has her own dreams, wants, and interests, and unfortunately, almost nobody in her circle understands her. It's heartbreaking to see. Still, much like us, she longs to be loved, wanted, and understood. We're human, after all. She wishes to be loved by as many people as possible. And is that truly so horrible? Is that truly such a huge thing to ask for? Is it wrong to ask for life outside of what you already have? I feel as a protagonist, we should see Pearl as human. Flawed, ugly, relatable, in the same way that we are flawed, ugly, and relatable. We can't help but relate to and root for Pearl despite all of her murderous tendencies. Fear, sadness, longing, cringe, anxiety, Pearl is a horrific human in a terrifying film. Her reality, her relatability, her character makes her all the much more compelling. T. West Pearl's juxtaposition between bright and colorful visuals, brutal gore, and the titular character's psychosis sent chills down my spine. Even on my 5th rewatch of the film, I love thinking and pondering what could have made Pearl this way. Perhaps it's Pearl's cold and distant mother, a paralyzed father, or her husband off at war. Maybe it's a culmination of all three, and the isolation certainly does not make any of it easier. I know it's common to joke about not being able to be alone with one's thoughts, but it is a truly frightening thought to be alone, to be by yourself, to reflect on your actions, to think about all of your flaws is horrific. Today, I want to talk about the horrors within isolation, helplessness, and failure in Pearl. Sit down, relax, and unwind as we delve into the tragedies of Pearl's current life, the wonders of her hopes and dreams, and the compounding circumstances that make Pearl a tragic protagonist. Before we move on to the rest of the video, I'll take this time to introduce myself. Howdy, I'm Himeros. I'm a virtual artist who specializes in illustration, video essays, and media analysis. If you enjoy art, speed paints, and general VTubery, please shoot a like, subscribe, and follow at HimerosVT on all platforms. There are going to be conversations on violence, gore, and general disturbing content ahead, so please proceed with caution. Today's essay won't recount nor give a summary for the film, but instead serves as an opportunity to analyze the themes and horrors in the film. There will be a great deal of spoilers ahead, so if you have yet to see Pearl, I highly recommend watching the film and giving the entire X trilogy a chance. Act 1. Pearl's current life and what it means to the audience. Pearl is a tragic victim of circumstance. It really is quite the understatement to say that her life sucks. She's currently living through the Spanish flu pandemic, the Great War, and unfortunately on a small farm in Texas. On a more serious note, Pearl is a German American amidst a pretty big war. You may have heard of it was pretty popular and it got a sequel. Germany, unfortunately, was one of the biggest instigators in the war, and while this isn't necessarily the end of the world for farmers, we can infer through Pearl's mother, Ruth, that they are German farmers. We can infer other German farmers are facing a great deal of struggle in the States. Ruth asserts that they're only getting by because of their privacy and how they conduct their life. Immediately, Ruth serves as a foil to Pearl's ambitious and naive attitude, and their arguments seem to stem from how they viewed the life they live and deserve. Ruth and Pearl exist in an almost damned if they win, damned if they lose state with the war. While it would be great for Pearl for the war to be done, for the recession to settle, and for Howard to return home, unfortunately, Ruth perceives the war being over as more and more German corpses piling up. The war is two homes she knows killing each other senselessly. Even when Pearl reads the post hinting at an end to the war, Pearl's celebrations are put to rest through her mother's disdain for the war. Even a small victory is shut down. Pearl sees the war ending as a return to normalcy. The farm could no longer afford to pay their farmhands, and her husband Howard willingly enlisted in the war. Most of her human interaction is gone. I would like to highlight the cruelness behind Howard willingly enlisting and how the couple used each other as mutual escapes, but this will be delved on later in the essay, so we'll put a pin in this for now. The farm and the family, while relatively lively looking, all look and feel tired. I cannot stress the visible tiredness and symptoms of sacrifice Ruth carries throughout the entire film. She feels, looks, and is tired. It's hard to view her as uncaring or unsympathetic when all domestic and hard labor falls onto her. Handling a farm all by herself is certainly taxing. Caring for a paralyzed husband takes a great toll on her, and keeping her family alive is all she can afford to do. The viewer cannot help but feel an overwhelming sense of dread and pity for Ruth, especially as she cries herself to sleep in the middle of the night. A farm, a seemingly ungrateful daughter, a paralyzed husband, her dream life crumbled before her. There is a sense of jadedness, a sense of grit, a sense of pain, and a sense of sorrow when she speaks. This is a woman who is torn, broken, tired, and unfortunately, Pearl bears witness to these grievances too. To have your husband, your dreams, your aspirations ripped from you is heartbreaking and taxing. Ruth, with her years, has come to peace with her life, despite how fresh her wounds are. Her active work on the farm and continuing to care for her husband comes at a great cost to her psyche and her physical fortitude. She is giving everything she has with everything she has been given, leaving her bitter and cold. Ruth's sacrifice leaves me feeling somber and afraid for my future. Will I face such great tribulations, too? Would I even have it in me to work as a parent, a caretaker, and a farmer? What about our dreams we had before? Ruth is a character who knows what it means to sacrifice for another person, for your family. Pearl is going to be Ruth, and she can see it, she can feel it. While not necessarily a villain, Ruth serves as a great sympathetic antagonist for the film. While she is constantly belittling Pearl, her behavior is warranted. I do believe we should extend the same grace to Ruth that we do for Pearl. If Ruth is a glimpse into the future for Pearl, Ruth is very much a glimpse into the future for the audience. Life can irreversibly alter the entire course of your remaining years, and you just have to deal with it. Ruth's sentiment on not getting what you want, but doing the best with what you have, is a great antithesis to the X Trilogy's message of not accepting a life you do not deserve. Ruth is hardened through her sacrifice. She is a victim of her circumstances, yes, but also a glimpse into the life we do not wish to live, a life we cannot help but live. Ruth, the quote Wicked Witch, is scary because her sacrifice is not rewarded. Instead, she ends burnt, scalded, and murdered at the hands of her own daughter. Pearl quite literally only has herself in this world. Letters from Howard are few and far between. She can really only speak to the farm animals since her father is paralyzed and her mother is cold to her. She's alone. I feel her loneliness reflects the horrors and anxieties we faced during the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. We were isolated, we had families, we lost autonomy, we lost the freedom we had to explore our communities, to see those who we love who did not share the same roof as us. We had few time to interact with others outside of our walls. We had nothing to do but self-reflect. Yes, we were connected by the internet, but at a certain point, all of that connectivity means nothing. Sure, we can reach out to others, but even a FaceTime, a Zoom, a Discord video call, it'll all reflect you. Your icon in the corner, the black screen reflecting yourself, and even your voice echoing off the walls, it is still you. Pearl's isolation is scary because it is real and it happened very recently. If you were freshly 18 when the film came out, you would have been 15 years old when you had to mask up. You could have lost your formative years, friendships, your very life was flipped upside down. We are aware of what it is like to be alone, and I believe that this time setting perfectly aligns with Pearl's psychosis. If we assume Pearl is already unstable, her isolation, her being alone, her losing the very essence of what makes her life and social interaction worthwhile should be enough to send her over the edge. Pearl carries her struggles by herself. She can really only vent to the farm animals and maybe her father, none of which can speak back to her. We are, at least at one point, were Pearl. We were left alone with our thoughts, our struggles, our burdens. Pearl is us at our very lowest, at our most vulnerable. I believe the film wanted to heighten our anxiety and uneasiness throughout the film through its use of its politically tense, health-focused time setting. The limited cast size, the vast environments, and the overwhelming sense of loneliness fills the audience with a great deal of stress and anxiety. Sure, a giant monster or slasher killer is scary, but the fears delve deeper beyond the surface level. Ghostface is scary because we fear murders, loss of our children, but he also serves as an allegory for teenage sex, at least in the first film. Talk to Me recounts the horrors of getting too close to demons, willingly letting your body over to dark forces, but it's also a compelling story on drug abuse and addiction. X is generally horrifying because of old, naked, kidnapping, murdering sex fiends, but it's also scary because we focus so much of our worth on our physical attractiveness, and when our youth is gone, we perceive it to be gone forever. Horror movies are often more elevated than the masses will give credit to. The fears are not simply the monster or the big bad, but what the monster or big bad implies. Pearl, both the film and the character, are scary because of their isolation. As humans, we fear emptiness, solitude, being alone. We fear the reflection that comes with being alone. Are we truly not a good person? Are we unworthy of love and affection? Are we putting up a front when we are with other people? We have been in Pearl's shoes. We have lived a life she has, and that makes her murderous acts all the more scary. Beyond the horrendous acts of murder, animal cruelty, and deviant sexual escapades, we are afraid that Pearl could very much be us. Now that we know the generally empty life Pearl lives at the moment, we can look at how her forced isolation stripped Pearl from the life and luxury she dreamed of. Act 2. Pearl squashed hopes and dreams. Despite the struggles she faces, Pearl dreams, yearns, and wants. She's human, after all. Pearl lives to be a star on the silver screen. She wants to be loved by as many people as possible. It would be an understatement to say that Pearl loves movies. She's enamored with them. Pearl sees the glitz and glamour of the movie divas of her age, and Pearl wants to live their life of luxury, and for a great deal of time, she was en route to become one of them, or at least like them. That was until the war hit and her ticket off the farm went to the trenches. Anywho, mid-pandemic and while the war carries on overseas, Pearl sneaks off to watch the pictures. She'll keep playbills, she names her farm animals after the movie stars of her era. In original drafts of the essay, I said she obsesses over the films, but I digress. Pearl dreams to live a life like the pictures. She wants to be perfect, just like the girls on screen. She wants to be perfect, just like the girls on screen. She was a performer, after all. She can dance, she can put on a show. Unfortunately, though, Pearl is stuck on the farm. Quite literally stuck on the farm. While she originally had a plan to leave her family behind, the Spanish flu and the Great War put a stop to all of that. Howard was supposed to be an escape for Pearl the same way farm life was supposed to be an escape for Howard. The couple used each other as a means to escape. We can infer from Howard's sisters Mitzi's dress, car, and fur that Howard's family is extremely wealthy. Apart from dropping off pigs to different houses, Mitzi assures Pearl that a doctor could have easily written Howard ineligible for the draft. These are not cheap nor easy things to come by. Howard, Mitzi, and their family lived a quiet life of luxury. In turn, Pearl viewed Howard working as a farmhand as an escape from the confines of the farm. In the end, though, Howard left to join the military, much to Pearl and his family's dismay. Much like Howard leaving to the farm, Howard joined the military to spite his parents. He joined as an escape. Howard longed to live a life outside of the one he already had, and he'll continue to venture on more treacherous journeys if it means he can spite his parents. On Mitzi's arrival, Pearl learns she has a chance to leave this farm. There will be a traveling dance troupe to bring merriment across the state. Finally, there's a chance off of this horrible farm. Pearl just needs to land the audition and her life will be on a silver platter. Pearl has an opportunity to get the life that she dreamed of, the life that she was promised. Howard's luxurious life is to Pearl what Pearl's farm life is to Howard. It is an escape from a life that they do not want to live. In the final live family dinner, or before all hell breaks loose with Pearl, we have a very chilling exchange between Pearl and Ruth, addressing every murder, escapade, and planned homicide the audience has seen thus far. We're almost at a crossroads. We want to root for Pearl. We want her to succeed. We want ourselves to succeed. But she's stuck, much like Ruth. I was debating whether or not I wanted to show this next scene in my video, but I feel it's really important. This scene shook me, and I think about it often. If I could only watch one scene from Pearl for the rest of my life, it would be this one.
Here, take it! That's what you really desire, isn't it? Perhaps I should kill him for you. That way you don't have to care for him any longer. Would that suit your selfish dreams better? Then we can both go to the dance audition. Your husband is gone, so is mine. Why should we be saddled with caring for them or the work of this farm? What about us getting what we want? I won't suffer for you any longer. You want to leave? Go. But when you fail, and you will fail, I want you to remember what it feels like. Because that's how I feel every time I look at you. Nearly everything I ever had has been taken from me. What more do you want?
I just don't want to have a black you, is all.
I won't let you flaunt your arrogance in my face! You are not better than me!
Pearl attempts to save her mother after realizing the pain and fire she inflicted on her, but the boiling water she threw on her offers little to no safety nor relief. She is now burnt and boiled. Ruth is presumed dead. Most chilling of all is that father, like the audience, sits there and watches every moment. No other moment represents the absolutely terrible feeling of helplessness we are experiencing right now. All we can do is observe. On Pearl's father, he's almost entirely reactive. T. West's choice not to give him a name but instead to be referred to as Pearl's father further dehumanizes him and disables him from progressing the plot, but he serves as an excellent device to see the horrors of Pearl, both the film and the character. While Pearl is the character the viewer relates to and sympathizes with, I believe Father serves as a stand-in for the audience. We are powerless, voiceless, we are strapped into the horrors of Pearl, we are paralyzed in fear. If we continue on with the illusions of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a great deal of helplessness coupled with our isolation. There weren't quite cures nor vaccines, our loved ones were passing, our lives were put on hold, we were trapped. All we could do, in our great age of information, is watch the horrors unfold before us, the same way Father can only watch his daughter kill his wife, and eventually, himself. Most chilling of all the death scenes is Pearl killing her father. While most of the murders were not premeditated, Pearl's, and I cannot stress the quotes on this enough, mercy killing, end quote, for her father is haunting and suffocating, no pun intended. Of course, this is not the first attempt at Pearl killing her father. Earlier in the film, Pearl attempts to strangle him, and later on, she attempts to feed her father to her crocodile friend Theta. Pearl loves her father, but she's at a crossroads. Her father is living a life she deems unfit, unsuitable. She was very close to mercy killing her father, but she's stopped by her mother. Euthanasia conflicts and debates aside, the implications of Pearl willingly think feeding her father to a crocodile is insane. I was at the edge of my seat watching, waiting, paralyzed and powerless. We can't help but feel bad for father as Pearl repeatedly tries to kill him. Is her dream truly worth that much? Surely if she leaves to become a dancer, her father could die with just her mother working on the farm, but that's a passive killing. Though, would her father even die? Would she even be at fault? At this point, his life and death are in Pearl's hands purely out of the circumstances she creates for herself. The burden she would carry is leaving her father with her mother. At this point in the film, the mercy killing is brutal and unnecessary, further emphasizing our fears and helplessness. Her father could not put up a fight, but instead could only grunt, moan, and thrash as he was strangled to death. He was helpless. While I initially wanted to leave this character out, no character is a bad character to examine in the film. The projectionist, while not entirely having a horrific role in the story, still plays into crushing Pearl's hopes and dreams. Pearl loves his bohemian lifestyle, his ability to pick up and leave, to live a life outside of the farm, to live a life that she does not want to live. She doesn't love the projectionist per se, she wants to be the projectionist. I won't exactly be groundbreaking when I say that she's projecting the life she wants to live onto him, but in case it wasn't clear in the movie, it is now. Anyways, with her mother dead and her dad soon to follow, there's nothing that can hold Pearl back. She will no longer have to worry about her father nor mother anymore. Pearl finally has someone to support her dream. He's even giving her a ride home after they finish boning. However, the audience and Pearl are left with a burning question. Was Ruth right? Is Pearl truly evil, uncanny, sinful, selfish? After her affair, the past catches up to Pearl. Visions of Howard flash before her eyes on the way home, and Pearl knows her past murderous actions will catch up with her, sooner or later. When the projectionist hears thrashing in the basement, he's wary and cautious. Still, Pearl tries to deny it. There's no one in the house. There's nothing in the house. The projectionist, very clearly sensing something is wrong with Pearl, attempts to leave. Pearl viewed her affair with him as another avenue to escape. She could be in the pictures with him supporting her. Though the switch-up is insane. Doesn't he like her? Doesn't the projectionist want to be with her forever and ever and support her to the fullest? No. Apparently, the projectionist spent a total of 1 day with her in dips, much to his bohemian lifestyle. He really does not owe Pearl anything. The ride was just a show of good faith. I mean, he did just pipe her, so I guess he can't expect her to ride a bike all the way home. I think Mia Goth's performance really does make me feel empathetic for Pearl. What did she do wrong? Of course, familial homicide and cheating on her husband is horrible, but T. West and Mia Goth do an amazing job at making us feel bad for Pearl. Her struggles and visually innocent demeanor and aspirations almost make us feel regret, feel horrible for Pearl. Did the projectionist not like her? Did we misread the relationship? Were the compliments empty? However, the projectionist doesn't owe her anything. Pearl is very much a liar, a cheater, and a murderer, but I get her. She is a woman who has not had any sexual human connection since the war started. Here we have a very handsome young man flatter her and offer her a life she's wanted for a while. She genuinely believed she was going to leave that farm. To Pearl, that switch up is crazy. She already built and planned a life with him. She is, and as much as I hate to say it, wrong to burst out at him for leaving when she is hiding her dead mother in the basement. As the projectionist tries to escape, Pearl murders him. Nobody can learn what she is truly like, and nobody is going to leave her on this farm. Not the projectionist, not Howard, not Mama, nobody. With 2 bodies, and I'm not talking about bagging the scarecrow and the projectionist, Pearl can finally act out her true desires. I believe the projectionist not only serves as an example of the sinful life Ruth despises and Pearl dreams of, but also as the embodiment of everything Pearl wants. When the physical manifestation of everything Pearl wants to accomplish rejects her, it's certainly not something Pearl can let slide. Maybe he's a shotgun on the shelf, or foreshadowing Pearl's ending for those unfamiliar with the franchise or her role in X. Or maybe he's to show that she will be rejected, much like how her mother predicts. Act 3. Failure, acceptance, and moving forward. Our best is not good enough. We are not good enough. If you came into Pearl having not seen X, hell, even if you came into Pearl having seen X, you still wanted Pearl to succeed. You wanted to see Pearl make it to the big screen. You wanted to see Pearl succeed. Unfortunately, she failed. Not because she was inherently bad, but because she simply was not the image they were looking for. Pearl's failures are not due to merit, but simply because of her circumstances. She's not the all-American girl who will travel the state, she will not make it in the pictures, and she will never be more than a farmer's daughter. Pearl failed, and she felt that disappointment her mother felt every time she looks at her. I feel now is the perfect opportunity to analyze Mitzi. Mitzi is a direct foil to Pearl. She is pretty and kind and naturally pleasant. Nowhere in the movie do we get the impression that Mitzi would harm nor hurt anyone. She actively looks out for Pearl and sees their status as sisters-in-law as a good segue to their friendship. Mitzi has the all-American image the traveling dance troupe wants. She's blonde, blue-eyed, and sweet. Even after she judges Dorothy Collins for being a self-proclaimed God's gift to the world, saying that people always get what's coming to them, she immediately rescinds that statement. She does not really believe that. She immediately praises her to follow up. Even stylistically, Mitzi is the opposite of Pearl. The dance audition sees Pearl wearing her bright red dress, contrasted from Mitzi's demure blue shawl and soft violet dress. Pearl has a thick, heavy dress made for longevity. It's her mother's, after all, while Mitzi has a thin, almost suede and velvet-looking dress. Mitzi lives the life of luxury Pearl wants. She's everything Pearl is not. This makes Mitzi consoling and caring for Pearl after her failed audition all the more heartbreaking for the scenes that follow. When Pearl finally hears she's a good friend, she's genuinely surprised. Is she truly good? Are we not as evil, selfish, or sinful as our mother made us out to be? The subtle shaking Mia Goth adds to her performance contrasts really well with her previous cool, collected demeanor. It can't help but make me think that all of her actions are now catching up with her. The failed dance audition is probably the most heartbreaking scene in the entire movie. In our heads, in Pearl's heart, she is a star waiting to be born. As I looked at the dance audition again, though, I noticed Pearl was not all that great. She's nice, but compared to the troupe behind her, she's not nearly as sharp, nor precise, nor polished as the girls on the screen. She's a nice dancer, but she doesn't quite have the X factor that they're looking for. Now, Pearl sees her past face to face with her, literally. Her mother, father, the projectionist, and Howard sit there, judging her. Every single murder, every single act of betrayal has been in vain. Pearl has failed. Moreover, I would like to highlight the dream sequence as Pearl dances. The trench warfare in the background contrasted with the spectacles of the fireworks and the cunty dancing soldiers. I believe this scene, again, serves as another allusion to the political climate in 2020. Despite all the bloodshed, political, and human rights protests, we wanted something to distract us, whether that be films in our homes, TikTok, pandemic hobbies, or binging Outer Banks and Tiger King. We wanted something to distract us. Back to Pearl's failed audition. Mia Goth's wailing truly shook me. I, fortunately, have not heard these cries since I was at a funeral. There's a genuine sense of heartbreak and pain behind every shriek. She has completely given up. There's almost nothing left for her anymore. No mother, no father, no prospects. Nothing. Pearl is coming to terms with just how truly different she is from how she feels disconnected from the world. Mitzi allows Pearl to truly let loose, to vent, to be herself. The entire 8-minute scene finally gives the audience an insight into why Pearl acts the way she does. While most critics would argue that this scene is telling instead of showing, I do believe it's important to let your audience know why the titular character is just as deranged as she is. Her monologue allows us to truly see what Pearl has repressed during the separation from Howard, herself, and the rest of humanity. When I said Pearl is us at our lowest, I truly do mean it. And poor Mitzi listens to everything she has to say. Pearl is regretful, remorseful. She knows she's ruined everything. Pearl knows she's not a good person. She's come to terms with her status, or at least is trying to. Pearl hates everything about the life she's lived so far. And when the audience learns of her pregnancy, we're met with a switch up when she was grateful for the miscarriage. She was sacrificing so much of her humanity, her desires, all to live a life she wanted to live. And she was never met with it. We truly see the extent her isolation has played on her mental. She loathes every fiber of her being. She cannot stand the very thought of continuing to live her own life. In her eyes, she's a failure. And worst of it all, she knows that this will be the rest of her life. She had a golden opportunity to leave, and Howard held it from her. His family's life, her dream life, taunted her. Howard never had to struggle the way Pearl and her family did. Howard's struggles as a farmhand and as a soldier are all because he wanted a change. He wanted something different. Howard's ignorance and arrogance taunted Pearl, the same way Pearl's arrogance taunted her mother. With Howard's return soon to come, she knows it's only a matter of time until Howard sees Pearl for the lady she is. She's murderous. She's fiendish. She's not nice. She's not kind. She's not pleasant. Pearl gives insight onto why she killed Ruth and the projectionist. They hurt her, so they had to know what it was like to suffer. She regrets her mother's death, and she also regrets her father's. Ruth meant well, she just wanted a home to feel safe in. Pearl realizes that's all she needs too. She wants to build a home, a life, a future with Howard. Pearl cannot bear being alone anymore. All she needs is Howard to accept her for what she truly is. All she really wants is to be loved. As Mitzi leaves, Pearl feels all of the resentment she felt swell at the sight of her. She's younger, more blonde, rich. She's everything Pearl is not. Unfortunately, that is Mitzi's ultimate sin, and Pearl has to see her hurt to match all of her suffering Pearl has gone through. As we see Pearl attack Mitzi, we cannot help but see how different the two truly are. Mitzi's glittery kitten heels are no match for the rough farm terrain, contrasted with Pearl's boots. In their final exchange, Mitzi says she'll do anything Pearl wants. In turn, Pearl finally agrees with Ruth's outlook on life. It's not about getting what we want, it's about making the best with what we have. Pearl returns to her mother, still lifeless in the cellar, and embraces her and cradles herself in their arms. Pearl cleans up every mess she's made so that no one may see her for what she truly is. The rot that festered inside Pearl manifests in the final family supper, and Howard returns from the war. The meal she laid out moldy and soured as Pearl worked on the farm all by herself. The film ends open-ended, with another stellar performance from Mia Goth as she smiles into the camera throughout the entire main credits. The score, from a romantic celebratory swell, turns into a cold, sharp string, awfully dissonant. Pearl's life truly cannot return to normal. She knows that, and the audience knows that. Yet she can try. We can infer from X that Pearl's murderous tendencies are not over, and she will continue her cycle of killing. Pearl never left the farm, and a great deal of our own horror comes from that. Her life is just as she expected. She was never going to be anything more than a farmer's daughter, and perhaps that's what makes the end more harrowing. Try and want all we would like, but there is no guarantee our hard work will pay off. The Lord may never answer our prayers, we may always have to struggle, and that's horrifying. Life is harsh and bleak and draining. Life terrifies us. I hope we all took today's essay as a means to see what is truly horrifying in the film. Yes, an innocent young lady terrorizing farm animals is terrifying, sexual escapades involving scarecrows is horrifying, the quadruple homicide of her mother, her affair, her father, and her sister-in-law are mortifying. In that same breath, seeing that we could very much be in her shoes, that our recent traumas could have put us in the same predicament she is in, is terrifying. Finally, being able to reflect on what makes us horrible humans is no easy nor kind venture. To have our dream life dangled in front of us only to be taken away, forever out of our reach, is just as horrifying. To live a life you so desperately want to escape yet you cannot is draining. We are simply victims of our circumstances. Even if we put a nice little bow on our mistakes, there is no going back from what we have done. They still exist, and we still have to live with them. Accepting our circumstances, our failures, and our life, and making the most of what we have is sometimes all we can do. I hope you enjoyed today's video and found a semblance of a unique thought behind my ramblings. Please consider watching the entirety of the X trilogy if you have yet to do so, and please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope to catch you all in my next video, whenever that may be. Now that my personal life has settled down a bit, I want to focus on this channel a lot more. If you'd like to see my escapades, feel free to follow me on Twitter at HeMedalsVT. I also stream on Twitch, drawing, rambling, and playing games. Hopefully I can find you all there. Until next time, HeMedals, out.